honeysuckle as far as the eye can see. A little bit of multiflora rose here and there along the trail. Up front, there were some poison hemlock, things like that. It wasn't a lot, but it was there, so it's just like, but we focused on this front area, and this is not all encompassing. It's not drawn where all the trails and everything are, but throughout the entirety of the trail, most of the trail edge is honeysuckle or autumn olive. There were a few other invasives that were along there, but they weren't nearly as high of intensity. So that front.
And what is the toxicity of that stuff?
So poison hemlock's highly toxic to all mammals. Contact with it, it's photoreactive. So if you get exposed to UV rays, like the sun, and it's on your skin, it can cause chemical burn. It will cause chemical burn, and it's also lethally toxic if ingested. The plus side, it's currently going dormant. Some of the toxins are still on there, so brushing up against it excessively can still
because of the heat, or because of
just its life cycle. So poison hemlock is a biennial, so it's a 2-year life cycle. First year it's a rosette, maybe gets about knee high, very big carroty tops because it's actually in the carrot family. And then year 2 is when it bolts and gets up to 9 foot tall and has the white flowers, and that's what we all see right now is the 2nd year growth of those plants. So the positive side of that is that it tells you where you need to look for the rosettes next year, because they produce tens of thousands of seeds, and they typically seed where they bolted. But they go dormant very quickly. They're at full height around May, and by July they're starting to go dormant, and typically by August they're skeletons of what they used to be. Yes, ma'am.
Is the poison hemlock similar to another plant?
3 actually. There are 3 invasive carrots. There's poison hemlock and wild parsnip, both of which are highly toxic and lethal if ingested. And then there's Queen Anne's lace or wild carrot.
That's the one I was thinking of.
Yeah, so Queen Anne's lace is currently blooming, and it's currently bolting, and it is not toxic. It is.
But how do you know the difference between the Queen Anne's and the?
So both hemlock and wild parsnip have bare stems, and the main stalk and the leaf stems are all bare. There's no hairs on it, whereas Queen Anne's lace is extremely hairy.
Yeah.
It's also shorter, isn't it?
Yes, Queen Anne's lace does not grow to 7 or 8 feet tall. It typically stops around 3 or 4. Sometimes it can get up to 5 if the growing conditions are perfect. But it is not nearly as tall or aggressive. There's another look-alike that's it's chervil, which actually has kind of a fennel flavor and taste and everything, and it looks exactly like Queen Anne's lace, but has no hairs. So you got to go by height. Yeah, it took a shave.
So those little short ones that you see along
Those
the
are
side of the
Queen
road,
Anne's
okay. Because I go by some of those on walks and I'm thinking, should I?
No, it's not toxic. It is still invasive. And so when we walked the large prairie area, that was a lot of Queen Anne's lace was in that prairie area. And that's typically where we really focus on Queen Anne's lace being invasive. If it's in a wood line, a wood edge, or someone's property before their shrub line and everything, Queen Anne's lace is technically invasive, but it's not going to do a whole lot. But when you're actively trying to grow a prairie or ephemeral prairie or grassland, Queen Anne's lace is a very aggressive invader, and so we typically want to identify that. All that going back up here, there's some poison hemlock and a few other things.
Okay, I cut out there around the sign a couple of months ago, and you'd said there's a lot of poison hemlock out there. I tried to Google search poison hemlock, and I found absolutely nothing. But is that poison hemlock? Because that was all over that sign. Did I cut it down?
Oh yeah, that's poison hemlock for sure.
Okay, so
Yeah, I was over
The stems will have purple flecking on it, and it almost looks like somebody took like a paintbrush and purple paint and just went all over the stem, from very young to very large. Early poison hemlock can actually look very similar to rhubarb, except for instead of that reddish maroon color, it's a purple. It's very purple. So out at the front area, we did see it's a smaller stand, but poison hemlock loves disturbed soil. It doesn't care if it's wet or dry, and it really likes sunlight. So that's why we saw it at the entrance, where there's a lot less big tree growth going on. So that front entryway is pretty overgrown with woody invasives, mostly invasive shrubs like honeysuckle and autumn olive, none of which are toxic to humans. Honeysuckle berries, and they won't sit well in your stomach. They'll kind of make you a little nauseous. Autumn olive berries, on the other hand, taste delicious, kind of like a pomegranate. Very edible. the trail and making new autumn olives, so better you than the animals, or we can remove them. So this area is a lot of woody invasives. The good thing about woody invasives are, with very few exceptions, they're very easy and straightforward to manage. There's 2 or 3 methods, and they work for 99% of all woody invasives, and it's just man hour that you have to put into it. When we got down here, can you on your screen click on that?
I think you can, you're like on the website.
Oh, hey, cool.
Nice.
That's super nifty. So, the prairie area, really cool. There's some amazing native species out there in huge amounts of some of them. Very, very awesome remnant prairie. It's beautiful, gorgeous. When we went out there, I could only imagine it's even better now. It's probably even more bergamot and everything in bloom. But the edges of the prairie area are an absolute nightmare. It's almost all autumn olive, which is a huge threat to prairie areas. Autumn olive loves to come in, and then it throws up massive growth. Even though it's a shrub, it can get up to 40 feet tall, which is basically a tree. I mean, it's a shrub that botanically it gets 30 foot tall. I've literally seen it over 30 foot. I've seen honeysuckle that's 30 foot and it's only supposed to be 15 to 20 feet. I'm like, we need to update our biology books here because the field tells a different story. But autumn olive creates a bunch of shade because it grows very clustered and large, and it'll create a lot of shade. And when there's shade, there's no grasslands, right? So lots of autumn olive and a lot of reed canary grass. Which is super invasive. I mean, it's one of the denser matting invasive grasses that we have. And when I say dense and matting, it goes into, it has 2 growth cycles in the same year. It grows very aggressively in spring into early summer, just before summer, around early June. And it goes temporarily dormant. It stops growing. But the leaf matter starts piling up, and it'll actually, especially when we have drier summers, it'll start creating a thatch of dormant grass. And then around August, early September, second growth cycle comes in, it's green again, and it grows laterally instead of vertically. And then it goes dormant in the winter, and now we have stacks on stacks on stacks on stacks of dead grass material. And the only thing that grows rapidly enough to grow through that thatch of reed canary is more reed canary grass. So it strangles out native ephemerals, native prairie plants and wildflowers, and native grasses very aggressively.
So how do you deal with it?
So you have to be very time sensitive on it, because if you try to treat it like right now, you're wasting time and chemical and energy. And you have to be careful with what management tools you do use. Fire can be useful, so there's no one management tool for reed canary grass. It always requires combinations, or else it's going to be ineffective. So in an area like this where we have a lot of things that we would love to preserve, and to be clear, the reed canary grass is found all over here, but it's not the whole thing is reed canary grass. It's dense patches, patchwork throughout, right? I just highlighted it all because that's how the NRCS and SICIM, that's how we map things out. We look at percent of cover, and then we look at density. So the percent cover is 100%. 100% of this has reed canary within an area. Like if I stand anywhere in the prairie, I'll probably be able to see, at least within 100 to 200 feet, some reed canary grass. How densely that is found varies greatly, and in most of this, it's mostly dense along the edges, and then there's a few little like islands of reed canary grass patched throughout. So to effectively treat it, what we want to do is hit it early spring with an herbicide before our spring ephemerals and wildflowers come up. So this is a very small window. And Indiana is not kind to us with that window, because that's typically when spring rains start, and you don't want to be applying herbicide when it's about to rain. So it's a matter of having flexible hours for whoever happens to be managing that property with the control and treatment. If that's a volunteer, if it's an outside hire, it's a specific time frame that you have, and there's only a handful of days in between that you can do it. Mowing can be extremely effective as a add-on. So you do, say, an initial herbicide treatment, and then you mow when it goes dormant, help get rid of that thatching grass. You have to be a little selective on that. And some of the spaces that were over here, getting a mower in there is probably not likely to happen because you're gonna do a lot of damage. So it might actually require more like weed whacking or using like a scythe, and keeping those things from growing too tall, keeping them from going to seed is truly the key. So some herbicide treatment, some cutting or mowing on a regular cycle, maybe once a month, keeps it from going to seed and it keeps it from spreading. Now, the problem with grasses is they grow root mats. Reed canary grass is no different. So getting it truly eliminated is a 5-year process, minimum. But every year you keep it from going to seed is a year that it doesn't spread to more places. The roots will get more matted, the roots will get more dense, but that's where your herbicide comes in.
How do you spell reed canary?
R-E-E-D, because
So it is reed?
Yes, it's a reed, yep.
Canary, the
Canary,
bird?
yep, exactly like the bird.
Is that one or 2 words?
It's 3, reed,
Three.
canary, grass.
Grass, okay.
Yeah, no, some of them get combined, like winter creeper is one
Right.
word, and it's like, who knew? So it's reed canary because it is a reed, it has a hollow stem reed as its primary stem, and then canary because the iridescent, the flowering seed head, is yellow and looks like a canary feather
Okay.
when it fully opens.
Makes sense.
But by the time you see that, it's a bad day, because it's already in seed. The other issue with this area here is there's some very dense patches of multiflora rose, and we know it's multiflora rose because the native roses all have pink or reddish hues to their blooms, and there's one big showy bloom per individual leaf stem. Multiflora has multiple flowers, and they're always white. And we know it, so when we walked, there were some clusters from the previous year where the flowers had turned to berries and the berries were no longer there, but it was multiple flowered clusters, which tells you instantly it's multiflora rose. That's not so bad. There were a couple big patches of it, but it's not all over the place. It was literally just along the edges, but as that creeps in, it's going to become more of a problem. Plus we have some native roses that don't behave as aggressively as multiflora rose, and we'd love to see those come in there. Prairie rose is beautiful and it does really well in grasslands and doesn't take over. And then there's just a ton of autumn olive. There were a few in there that were basically trees. And again, those are pretty problematic.
Just because of the shading.
Yeah, they destroy grasslands because they create the shade, and once it shades out and that seed bank isn't getting reloaded with the natives, it can be a long road to restoration. So easier and way less expensive to cut those things out instead of go back and try to do restoration after the fact. And then when we were down there's that ephemeral pond. It was completely edged with reed canary grass. And then where's the barn at? Is that structure?
Where you, yeah.
Yeah,
Just-
you actually have the map a little off, but
Do I? Okay.
do you want me to show you real
I
quick?
did not have good cell reception out there, so I drew the things where it told me I
So
was.
this is actually the prairie here,
Yeah.
and the parking lot's here. It's just hard to tell because the Google image has not
Right.
reloaded.
Okay.
But see how the building's
Yeah.
right there? That's
Yeah,
the
see,
barn.
that's what I
And
thought.
that's where we re-drove over to.
Right.
Okay.
Because
yes.
right currently, we're working west of the creek.
Yeah, so over here.
Yeah.
Okay. And that's the prairie. See, that makes way more sense than where
Yeah.
y'all looked at me like I was crazy with good reason. Yeah, so the cell reception out there on the tablet was really
Right.
bad, and that's
So
where it told me I was.
basically, take that area and move it.
Shift everything about 400 yards that way.
Yeah.
I was wondering how you got across that creek, you said you went everywhere.
We actually
We
did
did,
cross
we
the
drove
creek.
around.
Yeah, we drove around it.
Yeah, and just parked where the old.
So when we came in and we looked to the barn, there was another invasive there that is unique in that it's a woody invasive that you don't want to just cut and treat with herbicide. It's tree of heaven, and there was a ton of it. Weirdly enough, growing in a super shaded, isolated part inside the barn.
It was literally growing in the barn. I shut the door so it didn't have light anymore.
Like the least amount of light humanly possible, and it was still growing,
no
and there was a
rain.
bunch of them.
Like, it doesn't make any sense.
It's getting the groundwater somehow, leaky roof or something, but there was a lot of them. I think there were 30 or 40 little saplings, and then there were at least.
How would it ever get started?
That's
Birds.
I mean, that speaks to how
Birds
aggressive
probably
it is
drop
too.
So tree of heaven in particular, it has the same type of seed as maple tree does. So the wind hits and it helicopters itself out, except tree of heaven drops 80 to 150,000 in a mature tree every year. And they can root into they're like dandelions of trees. Literally, those were rooted in the slab concrete, like, a crack, and the seed got in, and then they grow clonally very aggressively, which is why we don't cut tree of heaven. We don't fell tree of heaven trees unless we know that we're gonna come in with an herbicide after it resprouts, because it'll send out suckers from the stump, and its entire root system will throw up root clones
Oh my goodness.
hyper aggressively.
Aspen type.
Yeah, it's very, very similar to aspens, yes. White mulberry does the same thing, but tree of heaven does it to a degree that even white mulberry doesn't do. White mulberry is another one that was on the property a few different places, especially on the way over here, where it's there and it's invasive. So the big focus though that we had, because it's the coolest part of the whole trail system and it's the most ecologically important part, is the prairie.
It's a big selling point for the property.
Yes.
Big selling point.
It is remnant
Needs
prairie,
to be
and there
protected
were at least 30 different species of native grasses and wildflowers out there.
Grants and stuff you can get.
I was gonna ask that.
Yes, there are. There are programs that you are you guys an official 501c3? I can't remember.
No, we're not yet.
Not yet, okay. So if you can get a partner that might be eligible to get some grants for that.
Well, county commissioners must be able to, they need to be aware of this importance and recognize it as such and put effort into it.
Yeah, partnering with SWCDs, sometimes they get Clean Water Indiana funds, and because there's a creek going through the property, eligible. Clean Water Indiana funds are a grant that typically SWCDs apply for, but nonprofits and partners, even if they're not nonprofits, can go in with an SWCD and get some money. And sometimes it's not a little money, it's a lot of money. Some of the projects they funded last year were over $300,000. And there were multiple projects like that. So SWCD, your Soil Water Conservation District, is a great partner. Purdue Extension sometimes has some grants. And then especially for brush management and restoration, you can look at USDA, DNR, or NRCS for potential fundings. NRCS runs a program called EQIP, Environmental Quality Improvement Program. Brush management and control of invasive species is the linchpin of that entire program. So there's some big money there. However, that one's not just, hey, here's money, go do the thing. It's, sure, here's your contract, do the work for a year, and then we'll come and evaluate to see how much work you did and pay you accordingly. So you gotta
Do the work first.
do the work first, pay for the herbicide or the contractor. Now, they don't care how you do the work. They don't care who does the work. They care that the work gets done. And they'll pay you for the first 3 years of that. It's a 10-year contract. You're anticipated to finish out the last 7 years on your own, and they do the first 3 years because that's where you're supposed to be the most aggressive in getting rid of all the fruit-bearing mature plants and tackling the big canary infestations and stuff like that. So that one's a little trickier to navigate, but can still be very effective. The other tools that you guys have at your disposal as a group, especially if you start tying with the community, is doing things like weed wrangles, which can go towards your equip work.
What was that?
A weed wrangle.
So like a cow wrangle, only weed?
Similar, yeah. So the concept of a weed wrangle is an organization like yourself invites the public, and you do a lot of networking and outreach. Invite City Hall, invite Parks Department, invite Joe Schmo and their 5 kids. Come out, partner with Purdue Extension, SUCD, people who might have loppers and stuff like that. QUIP, which is Kosciuszko County's SICIM, which is a organization that just deals in invasive species for every county. We have a whole bunch of tools. We'd be more than willing to let a group like you borrow for a weed wrangle. But you register the weed wrangle through SICIM because we're the official hub for Indiana. We do more weed wrangles as a state than the next 4 states combined, and that includes Texas and California. We did over 250 events last year, covering over 40,000 acres of control. And these are really cool because you leverage it and you get, say you get 20 people to show up. You do 2 hours. Well, that's 40 man hours of invasive species management that you just got in a single day free. Plants don't work that fast. So you can offset decades especially of woody invasives, can offset decades. And the other cool thing is it gets eyes on a property that has great value to the community for people who might not actually understand that value. And then they get to come in, they get to see, here's what it looks like beforehand, and it's massive thickets of green that shouldn't be there. And then they spend 2 hours taking it out, getting a little sweat equity in, and then you step back and you look like, oh my goodness, this looks totally different. It has been transformed. And you do that every year on the same site. 3 years, 4 years, if you guys only have one property you're worrying about, every year, multiple times every year, do a spring one, do a fall one, and the amount of gain you get in controlling your invasive species becomes exponential.
You know, as a volunteer group, how do we get, I don't know, certified, experienced, or trained or something?
Hi,
Okay.
This is our resource.
I am your guy. I've got the tools, I got the chemical, I got the chemical applicator license, although you don't need it if you're doing environmental restoration as a volunteer and private property.
Resource.
And yeah,
I
and
think
I've
we
got
have a
everything.
DNR guy that has that too, like that is literally in
Yeah.
town.
The expertise, the more you do it. Quip, for instance, average volunteer age over 60, average member age over 55, and yet they are now becoming subject experts in the field of invasive species and control, and they're doing presentations at like ILMs and two lake associations throughout all of Kosciuszko County, and they've only been doing it 4 or 5 years as a volunteer because they're just involved.
Okay, well, but you talk about there's whatever it is invasive coming in on that prairie. You know, that's one thing I think I'd like to see concentrate on is to
Yeah.
stop that, so.
And that's the perfect plan. The prairie is the coolest part, it's the most sensitive part, and it's the most important part. And right now, all the invasives are concentrated on the edges with small little islands in pockets in the interior. So you start where they're the smallest infestation because you eliminate those and they can't expand. Get rid of those little pockets first and then work your way out to the edges and then systematically just start sweeping the edges. You do this consistently. Plants grow all the time, right? So, but they grow slow, relatively.
Were you doing chemical applications or just going out there pulling the weeds up and burn them, or?
It depends on what you all want to do. It depends on what you have access to. But and this is again where I am a resource. I can give you the right chemical combinations, the right timing for them, application rates, all of that stuff, completely free, just a standing resource. And you stack control methods. If you can only mow or weed rack, cool, go do that. And then 3 to 8 weeks later, depending on how warm it is, go out and spray a chemical or do it again. Just if you're constantly weed whacking and mowing the little patches of reed canary that are all there, it's never going to go to seed, and you're going to distress all those roots of any nutrients they have in about 3 years. So you can control chemical free. It just takes a longer time period. Whereas if you go in, cut it, wait 5 weeks, come in, spray it, now you're getting control in 1 year as opposed to 3. But there's always more than one way to handle the invasives, and that's where I come in to help you guys navigate that.
Is there any, with the property being where it is there any benefit that we can tap into of having the golf course across the road?
100%. One, they have chemical applicators. Golf courses are one of the #1 herbicide applicators in the country by industry. They also are probably well equipped with the equipment to do large scale spraying. And when we were out there, I actually looked along the golf course's property, and oh my, do they have invasives along their outer edge. And
Oh, they do?
oh yeah.
Well, I think there's a lot more connection with the Kokomo folks and the county up there for the
I would think so,
activity.
yeah.
So
Yeah, I
that'd
don't
be
know if
another.
you're aware of that, but that's the county line.
Yeah, so half of all of this is invasives. They have tree of heaven in their property
So
line.
they don't deal with it?
They probably don't know. They deal with
They were
turf grass and
Pretty
invasives out
stuff,
there.
yeah.
Yeah.
The route.
And honestly, if you look at the rough of most golf courses, it's almost all invasive grasses or
Because they don't care.
because you're not supposed to be in it.
Yeah.
We're gonna incentivize it by making it all prickly and Canada thistles, so you'll stay out of the rough and get a better
Yeah,
golf
on
game.
the Howard County side, that was pretty tall earlier, and somebody did come through there not too long ago with a bush hog and.
And they
chopped it
typically
out.
do, and the problem with that is, they don't come back with an herbicide and it just grows back.
It's not there.
Well, there on our side of the road, that was done with a bush hog here not too long ago too.
Bush hogs can be amazing, however, it's a part one of a two-step process. So you bush hog, and that batters the stems and everything, it takes the berry producing biomass off the top, and that's all great. But you gotta come back in 5 weeks and spray all the new leaves that have come out on that new growth, because bush hogging doesn't kill anything. It hurts it, and it damages it, but when plants get damaged, it registers as predation. It registers as something trying to eat it, like a deer or something browsing it, and it spurs regrowth. That's why when we mow our lawns, it causes denser matting of the roots. It's why if you trim out your rose bush, it causes bigger blooms. They all rate it as being eaten. Damage stress is damage stress to a plant. It doesn't have a brain, so it all is just like, oh, we need to grow more now because we got hurt, and they do really aggressively. So bush hogging can be great for minimizing berry production and seed production, but it needs to be followed up 5 to 8 weeks later when new stuff is growing up with leaves with an herbicide application. It's a 1-2 combo.
You know, it's been probably a good month and a half ago, I cut all that right there at the sign and down that road, so, but now it's starting to come back up. It should have been treated with herbicide in there someplace.
I mean, right now is a great time to do it, aside from, you know, like rain to here. At least it did in my area.
So how do we get those chemicals? Do we have cost and access? How do we?
Yeah, so that's where partnerships can definitely come in. It's where if you guys are interested, I have a step-by-step on how to become an actual 501c3 laid out very plainly. But if there's no will for that, that's fine. Partnerships are the way to go. And a lot
It is a property owned by the county commissioners, so the county commissioners.
they should be willing to throw some resources
Yes,
at it.
exactly. That is, there's gotta be some.
And if there's resistance there, you look for other partners. You know, Purdue Extension, they can't recommend name brands on any type of anything, but they can tell you what herbicides work for what. I mean, just go to their website. They've got a huge list of herbicides.
I'm a master gardener.
Yeah, Master Gardeners. So there's your Purdue Extension connection. But then also your SWCD, they can be potential sources. And then honestly, even if you're not a 501c3, you can go to some of your local hardware stores, garden supply centers, and things like that, and be like, hey, we are a group that, you know, whatever I can't remember what your guys' Tipton Trails,
Yeah.
just Tipton Trails. Hey, we're with Tipton Trails, and we're doing a restoration project on our prairie. Would you be willing to give us 5 gallons of glyphosate?
Support, yeah.
It's like $30 to them, and you've got glyphosate for 3 years now.
A couple weeks ago, I did talk to Bruce out there at Ace, and he mentioned that if we need, or anybody who knows what they're doing, I think that knows what we're doing is one of the key pieces, that he'd be more helpful in trying to get the chemicals through Ace.
Yep. And that's something that I'd be more than willing to do. We could do an on-site training day. We could do an internal weed wrangle only, where you don't invite the public, you get yourselves spun up on what a weed wrangle looks like, how to manage one, how to get people out to it, what tools to use. And then we do that, and then you guys I can still help always, but you start running stuff on your own because you got the know-how.
Well, that's, know-how's a missing,
That's the
missing
key.
piece.
I'm the know-how.
I found the know-how. What time frame are we looking for if we're gonna clean up that prairie and we wanna do one this fall?
If you want to do one this fall, I would recommend September, mid to late September. Most of our natives start going dormant around that time, which means your off-target damage minimized, and canary grass is back into its growth cycle by that time, so you're not spinning your wheels on nothing. Autumn olive is still treatable with cut stump, where you cut the stump about 2 inches off the ground and paint it with glyphosate. So autumn olive, reed canary, multiflora rose can all still be treated, and honeysuckle can all still be treated in late September, even early October. We've even done weed wrangles after Thanksgiving and still had great effect because the invasives just keep photosynthesizing well into the winter. So realistic time frame, late September through mid-November. Anytime in there, you're still going to have a lot of availability to treat. The closer to mid-November you get, the less likely off-target damage there is, but also you start running into the potential for the air temperature to be too low for the chemical to work. It can be 70 in December, or it can be 20 in December. And once it drops below about 45, your chemical is not going to translocate through the plant.
And I don't remember, is glyphosate one of those ones that somebody has to be certified to use?
No, so all of SICIM's recommendations and all the chemicals I use and recommend other people to use are non-restricted chemicals, which means you can buy them everywhere. You don't need a special license to buy them. I have an applicator's license because I do it as part of my job, but volunteers on private property or publicly owned property, and you're doing it as a volunteer, you don't have to have a license. Fun thing.
For better or for worse?
Yeah, it's just, just don't buy Tordon. And if you're using Tordon on your private property, please stop. Glyphosate and triclopyr are fine, and they're cheaper. And they don't stay in the soil. They volatilize out of the soil very quickly. Although with Reed Canary in some of the spots, I'm gonna recommend using Invasives, which does stick around in the soil. But if you're doing a late fall application, it only stays in the soil until next spring. And it's gone by the time the ephemerals and natives are coming up. It's a perfect timing. But like that type of information, you don't have to have that information. I have it, and I share it with you. I'm the answer guy.
That's great.
How much space is there total on this property?
72.
72.
73, 72.
72.
What was this before? Was it ever farm ground or?
It was, yeah, originally,
Areas.
where the barn is over here, back here a little bit farther was where he actually had his house, so he lived there when Bill knows, right? So it was residence and farm and part of it, he farmed this portion of it, did he not? Bill, way back when?
I don't know exactly, well, I can't see.
It had been farmed at one time.
But there's
Where are we
three
at?
distinct areas,
Here's
right?
here's the pole barn.
Okay,
His house set somewhere in that vicinity.
yeah, he farmed, yeah, that was a field.
Yeah, that's what I thought,
Yeah.
both of those.
Yeah, where the prairie is, that makes sense.
And that prairie, he just mowed around it.
Yeah, okay.
That's all, he didn't do anything
That's-
except leave it alone.
That's honestly awesome because it indicates it's probably remnant prairie. And
Yeah.
that's so rare
Yeah.
anymore.
He was a naturalist.
That's fantastic. It also explains why there's so much autumnalic and multiflora rose. Those are very prevalent where there used to be either row crop or pasture. But it also, I mean, knowing that that's actually remnant prairie, that's awesome. It means that there's probably even stuff inside the seed bank that hasn't come up yet because there probably hasn't been a fire there in 50 years. And a lot of our native prairie plants, they actually need fire in order to reproduce.
Yeah, can you talk
Should there be a controlled burn?
After you get the invasives under control.
Okay.
So fire can be used for controlling the biomass of invasives, but when you have Reed canary grass in particular, it loves fire. It will come back 3, 4, 5 times as thick, 5 times as fast, and it will overtake very quickly. It responds very aggressively to fire, way more than our natives do, and even though our natives need the fire, if you do it at the wrong time, that Reed canary grass is just gonna. Now, early spring control burn to get rid of the thatched out dead parts of the Reed canary, very good, because yes, the Reed canary will grow back, but if you do it early enough, and I am not certified to do fires. I used to be, but I'm not now. I'm not a fire manager. You do it early enough in the spring, you can burn away all that biomass. It'll grow up faster than anything else will, and you'll still be able to do an herbicide treatment before the natives are up. That is a super
Very
fine
small
window.
window.
That is a small window, but it does exist, and it's very encouraging that it exists. You can also burn it in late fall, when everything else is dormant. Burn it away, it grows back up in the spring, you spray it before all the natives are there, control.
Brenda, I don't know if you've talked finances on what we're talking about, dealing with the invasive species. I mean, it's just gonna be, we've got money now, don't we, from the commissioners that they put in the budget that we never use.
Right.
So, I mean, what are we talking about each year if we tackle this problem? Like either hiring somebody or
Yeah.
whatever. All I've heard so far is a 50 gallon or a $50 gallon,
Yeah. So like a 5-gallon jug of glyphosate will get you pretty far, but it's not gonna cover everything. but you wanna be precision, we're not doing broadcast spraying, so every bit of herbicide purchased, it goes a lot further than people think. But, outside of for the prairie, you need to have, cutting tools that can get back there without damaging anything, and while a mower could be pretty useful, you'd need a mower that can traverse all of that, get out there and be selective in where it mows. You can't have like a big 60 decker, you need to have something a little more selective. Or you need to get some manual removal tools like a scythe or a brush cutter with grass blades. That's actually highly recommended because it's way less physically intense than doing a scythe and it's easier to get back there than a mower. So I mean, brush cutter can run, if you do a battery operated one, which I highly recommend because it works cold or hot. Milwaukee makes a good one, Steel makes a good one.
See, I think getting access around the site is kind of the first step that you need to start looking at, and then once you get access, then you can start saying, okay, what are we gonna do with this area, and what are we gonna do with this area, and go at it piece by piece. But first, you gotta get some access. Right now, access is extremely difficult.
It wasn't easy to walk all over.
Exactly, even walking is hard, so you gotta get access.
Placing a trail, pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
And the cool thing with that is you can do that in the winter. I know not everybody likes to work when it's 20 degrees outside, but honeysuckle, autumn olive, all those things that are blocks to getting to that prairie, as long as the soil's not frozen rock hard, those can be pushed out with a rented bobcat and a scoop shovel on the front. Like you can just push them out of the ground and they're dead now.
So getting access is the.
You rent a bobcat for a weekend, you get someone with a trailer and you can clear your path very easily. So sometimes it's thinking outside the box, and I'm an outside the box, I don't even see the box most of the time when I'm thinking, so if you want help navigating that, suggestions on partnerships and stuff like that, tools to purchase, I've used everything. I literally own a scythe and 2 different types of sickles, and electric chainsaws and regular saws and gas chainsaws and loppers and Swedish brush axes, which nobody's even ever heard of. Like I have, I love those things. The little D handle, big old razor blade. I love them.
They're great
for certain things. But I mean, I've used and owned everything. So suggestions on tools, suggestions on chemicals, where to source them, potential partnerships. I've also partnered with some weird people. I've got good partnerships with a couple organizations like Seymour Midwest, who makes farm tools and restoration equipment in Warsaw, Indiana, and in Seymour, Indiana. I have a standing partnership with them. We get really good discounts.
So is that barn something that could be secure?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Tools and stuff in? Okay.
Oh, no,
It's,
no.
it's a standing structure that could be.
She said, is it secure to put
Oh,
tools?
no,
not
not now.
Could be, is currently not.
But that's why at the current time, we're working this side of the creek. There's a couple other old wooden buildings on this side of the creek where it used to be around the farm that need to come down before we have people wandering around there too much, because
Yeah, that's in like the 2 or 3 year.
Dick and I went over there and looked, and we decided we didn't want to go into one of those buildings.
Yeah, I don't blame you. They were pretty sketchy.
Yeah, they're real sketchy.
So I know we're focused on the prairie, but I feel like, is there something we need to do to make sure that the tree of heaven isn't like so overwhelming by the time we get to it?
Yes. So the cool thing with that is it's a really simple treatment, and most of them were small saplings. So you just do what's called basal bark. You'll get something like triclopyr, and you'll mix it with oil, an oil substrate. So there's basil oil, you can use diesel fuel or kerosene. And I don't know, sometimes diesel's cheaper than basil oil, sometimes it's not. It's kind of a crapshoot. You can also use methylated seed oil, and that one varies in cost and accessibility too. But you mix your herbicide and you mix your oil, and then you start at the ground and go up 18 inches all the way around the bark, and you just spray that oil herbicide on there. The oil punches through the bark and goes right down into the roots, and it kills the tree without it being attacked. You don't damage the tree with a blade or anything. And so tree of heaven doesn't freak out and start sending up root sprouts. And you just kill it that way. Great for saplings, not so great for big, tall, 80-foot monsters, cause now you have a standing dead tree that's 80 foot tall and weighs
Widowmaker.
multiple tons. So usually what I recommend is, yeah, go ahead and fell the big one and just come back and foliar spray all the root sprouts that are gonna come back up in like 8 weeks. So,
I
you know,
think that's it.
They
Yeah.
approve of it.
yeah. So, I mean, you know, so, but it's all about what you're looking
I
at.
didn't either, but it's one of my new least favorite.
Yeah, it smells like bad peanut butter.
Ew,
It makes the air smell like bad peanut butter too. And that's actually a toxin, it is mildly toxic, it can make you nauseous and cause migraines.
Mm.
But it's how you tell the difference between sumac, walnut, and tree of heaven. If you're not good at leaf identification, you just sniff it. Walnut smells like walnut, sumac smells like nothing, tree of heaven smells like roast peanut butter. It's also a spotted lanternfly host.
Yeah.
If you've heard of spotted lanternfly,
Mhm.
potentially extremely damaging for crops and everything. And tree of heaven is its native host tree. They blend in perfectly with it. So much so that the leaf scars on tree of heaven bark literally look like the white dotted markings on spotted lanternfly. It's wild. If you want to see a true spotted lanternfly infestation, go to Huntington. It's horrifying. It's like a biblical plague over there all the time.
Yikes.
That could happen in the barn?
It can happen anywhere there's tree of heaven, for sure.
Cause you said the barn was completely.
So far, I don't know that Tipton County has
Oh, okay.
solidified tree or spotted lanternfly sighting. DNR tracks that. You can find the map online. I don't know that Tipton County has it yet.
That's
I
good.
don't think we
I think
have
it's
it
in
yet.
like 30 counties in Indiana right now. But Huntington was ground zero.
Mm.
I have them on my Rosa Sharon.
Do you know?
Yeah.
Get rid of your Rosa Sharon. It's also invasive. I'm not a purist. Keep your stuff. It's yeah, but spotted lanternfly is pretty nasty and it's extremely difficult to get rid of once it's there. Yeah. So gaining access super important. The entryway could be a good weed wrangle because typically you don't want volunteers going through a super sensitive environment. But you get people out to the weed wrangle. You open their eyes to the fact that this is a very cool property and that they can actually make a difference. And then maybe they start showing up to these and you guys develop a team that goes in more regularly and starts really focusing in on the grassland. Although the edges of the grassland where it's all autumn olive and stuff, that'd be great for a weed wrangle, just have people swoop around. And then you can use the Google My Maps that I've shared to map out what work you've done. You can put notes and photos and color code everything on the Google My Maps, which you now have, and if you save a copy to your email, you can edit it. And you can keep a running update of what did we treat? Here's our stop point, GPS fixed, so long as you have good cell reception, which clearly I did not. But you can have to the GPS dot, where we started, where we stopped, what we used, how much we applied, how many people showed up, when the next treatment is. You can leave all the notes, there's tons of symbols. It's basically ArcGIS, but you don't need a master's degree to understand how to use it, and it's free. Instead of, $190 a month.
So where does it stop? Does it go like down to that wooded area down on the bottom left?
Over
Or
there.
does it-
Yeah, you can see the 3 distinct areas, 3 strips.
Right, so it goes straight across like the woods down on the bottom, no, down
Down the
Yeah.
bottom.
at the bottom?
Yeah.
Right there, is that part of it?
No,
Okay,
there's a house there.
It's
Okay.
a rectangle.
okay.
Can you tell more about the ethereal pond since we have just like a couple more minutes?
Yeah, so it's that ephemeral pond that's down there. When it rains in the spring, that gets filled up, and the plants that grow around it are super specific to that type of geographic land feature. They only grow when there's enough water to make that a standing pond, and then you get very distinct ephemeral plants that grow around that. Certain types of grasses, forbs, sedges, all sorts of really cool stuff. It's a really neat and sensitive feature because if the hydrology is changed, if this farmer puts in a new tile or whatever, that thing can just dry out and never happen again. But it's ringed with reed canary grass, and that's one where it can be tackled with like 2 volunteers. Just this is your project for the year, cutting and spraying and cutting and spraying and cutting and spraying, because once the spring rains are gone, that's pretty much done. So now through the rest of the year, great time to manage that. But it's a super sensitive and unique area, and while it's hard to get to, really worth trying to put some effort in saving, because there aren't a lot of those left, because of how much we change the hydrology in areas. But that spring ephemeral pond down there, managing the reed canary grass will keep it from growing in, because if the reed canary grass grows into it and it starts leaving layers and layers of thatch, it's gonna fill it in over the course of 25, 35 years. And then even if you control the reed canary grass after that, it's destroyed. It'll wreck out the seed bank and everything. So that's a really interesting feature down there. I would highly recommend that be like, it doesn't have to be like the whole group's focus, but get some people to be over there controlling the reed canary grass as soon as you possibly can, because if you haven't been down there, go down there in like late March after a good rain and give it a week or two, and you're gonna see some really cool stuff. There's gonna be lots of amphibians and reptiles, lots of birds, tons of really neat little plants and stuff going on that you won't see anywhere else in the woods.
Unfortunately, step one back there is removing the trash, because it was a dump site at one point.
Also, yes.
But thankfully, I think if we work with the farmer that has that field, if we're working before he's putting in seed,
Yeah.
then we can just go around, do an entrance there, and it'll be easy to get
Yeah,
to.
in March through April, he probably won't be putting anything in, not with the type of rains we've been getting every spring. They're usually not putting it until the end of April, early March, or early May, so you got some time.
Yeah.
I see there's an arbor care and tree landscaping. Maybe that guy can get on the native plant route and start helping with that.
This has been very informative.
Any other questions?
And I'll remain a resource forever. Like, you got my contact
You're
information.
never allowed to quit your job.
So my SICIM job stops existing next June, but I do invasive species removal as a side job. That's becoming my full-time job, but continued help with SISMAs and stuff is something I'm gonna do as a volunteer basis, pretty much the rest of my life, so hit me up. I will give all the information that you ever need. And if I don't know it, I'll ask somebody who I know that does.
What's the definition of ephemeral?
Ephemeral,
And how do you spell that?
EPHEMERAL.
EPHEM.
I'm gonna get it wrong, let's just look it up.
ERAL sounds phonetically correct.
I know,
It's
right?
right there on your,
Oh, yeah, ephemeral.
First one on the top.
yeah,
EPHEMERAL.
it's up there.
So
on your
ephemeral ponds or spring ephemerals, they're short-lived, right? So ephemeral literally just means short-lived. So like Trillium, Jack in the Pulpit, False Solomon Seal, all of those early spring flowers that go dormant by the time summer hits, those are ephemeral because they're only out for 3 or 4 weeks. Whereas we have, perennials and annuals and things that are more persistent, and you'll see them start growing in March, and then they'll flower in July, August, and then they'll start changing colors and go dormant November. Those are very long-lived plant, but our spring ephemerals and ephemeral ponds are short-lived. It's temporary. So that ephemeral pond hosts a whole bunch of things only for a very short amount of time. Usually it's a month or less in its entire existence.
And it's really
every
cool. I
year.
think I was out there during that month, because there's like frogs and all this.
You'll
Yeah, it
get
was just
you'll get
full
like
of life.
5 or 6 types of frogs in an ephemeral pond, and they're dependent on it because there's a whole influx of insects at that time, and it's the exact same time that the young frogs need to be growing and reproducing, and so they just gorge and feast.
So when it goes away, where do the frogs?
That's what I was just.
So the frogs leave that area. It's only for that initial stage of their life, and they'll spread out and find. They'll find the creek. They'll find low areas. There'll be tree frogs and stuff, but they need that extra protein from the insects at a very young age to grow enough to be able to reproduce. And without the ephemeral pond, there's not that excess nutrient to be able to grow and reproduce large. And if there's not enough nutrients, animals just don't reproduce.
So it's their beginning cycle of their life.
It's not the beginning, it's their early adult.
Early
It's like their
adult.
juvenile stage where they need to be consuming just a ton of food in order to grow to reproduction
Like a
size.
teenager.
Yeah, like a teenager. You ever tried to feed a teenage boy or watch a teenage boy
Right.
eat? It's like that. And this is like a golden corral. Just eat until you stop being capable of eating. But they're super temporary, they're short-lived, and if you get out while it's in its swing of life, it's amazing. But it doesn't even happen every year. Sometimes ephemeral ponds will just not happen for 7, 8 years at a time, and then all of a sudden it's just the right conditions, right amount of rain, right hydrology, and it bursts into life for a month and a half, and then it's done for another 2, 3, 5 years.
I don't know if that is the one, but on that property, they had a gravel pit, and they would drive a wagon down into the pit and then load the gravel on the wagon and then drive it out. So I don't know if it's big enough for that, but
Wow.
he had one back there.
I don't know. It could be, that'd be cool, cause then it filled in and life found a way. Not a lot of life in a gravel pit, yeah. But that pond, even when we went out, it was very clearly, something that has a lot of life around it.
Are there other ponds, or is it just the creek and that?
Yeah, just the creek in that
It's not fed by
area.
the creek. The pond is not fed by the creek.
No,
I just
no.
meant if there were any other water.
It's a natural depression.
Yep.
Is it a glacial moraine that's through there that would have been?
If it was a gravel pit, it could have just been a gravel pit. It could have been a glacial moraine. Sometimes there's just dips in the land, and I've even seen ephemeral ponds in prairies, where it's mostly flat, super sunny, and all of a sudden you get some weird sedges and stuff that are growing in the middle of a prairie. You're like, you don't belong here. What are you doing? Like, why is there yellow loosestrife in my prairie? I don't understand.
Well, thank you so much for your time and
Yeah,
your
sorry about
knowledge
the
and your
kerfuffle with
wisdom.
the technology.
Yeah.
We're sorry.